Specifically in WoW Classic, whenever a new expansion has launched, we normally get a week or two to be able to gear up before the first tier of content opens, and it's the first tier of content as a whole. Well, Mists of Pandaria back in the day launched very differently, and I actually believe that this time around, even though it's classic, it should launch exactly how it did before, and it does make a lot of sense why, but we need to break it down. So if you was to break Mists of Pandaria down into phases, it should be tier 14, which is going to be Mogoshon Vaults, Heart of Fear, and Terrace of Endless Springs. Then you're going to have a PvP patch, which brings more dailies, and Krasarang Wilds gets a couple of hubs that you can go and do PvP-related objectives in. Now, this patch was called Landfall, and to many it was remembered as a bit of a filler patch, because if you play on private servers or anything like that, you know, when it comes out, really all you're waiting for is 5.2, which would be Phase 3 in Classic, which we will break all the phases down in a minute, and that would be when Isle of Thunder and Throne of Thunder actually become available. This patch did continue on with a legendary questline with Rathian, where you're working towards getting your cloak. It also added item level upgrades, which are a completely new system that we've not seen before in Classic yet. And one of my favourite things that it brought in was actually the Brawlers Guild. Now, while some of this may be available at launch, and I actually think it should be, I think things like Brawlers Guild should definitely be in at launch, but this should be the time where the item upgrade vendors come in. But at the same time, there is actually so much content at launch, like with pet battles and obviously with the new raids, heroics, challenge modes, scenarios, I mean, you name it, the class changes in general. There's so much that's going on that actually holding back a little bit for future phases is probably not a bad idea. So seeing Brawlers Guild come out with Phase 2 would actually probably be pretty good. And especially with the item level upgrades. Of course, we don't want the item level upgrades before Tier 14 because obviously Tier 14 was never tuned around being able to get an extra 8 item level on all of your items. If you're not quite sure what that is, when you look at this item here, you can see that it says 0 of 2. Well, each time you upgrade it, which costs, depending on what type of item it is, either Justice points or Valor points for epic items, you can get an extra 8 item level on top of everything. Now, you're not really going to be wasting Valor points on upgrading anything that's not BIS, to be completely honest, because Valor points are still not easy to come by. But yeah, you should really expect this to come in Phase 2. So just rewinding, we're saying Mogoshon Vaults, Heart of Fear and Terrace, that's Phase 1. Then we're going to have the upgrades and Brawlers Guild and the PvP event and the continuation of the legendary questline to be Phase 2. The Isle of Thunder, which is a daily zone and it's got rares and actually it's quite a fun place to go to. And obviously Throne of Thunder would be Phase 3. And then there's another little filler phase, which would be Phase 4, which was actually called Escalation. This patch brought a new world event in the Barrens, heroic scenarios, arenas and battlegrounds, and even it expanded upon Brawlers Guild as well, giving new fights in Brawlers Guild. Now, this would actually be a great catch-up phase to get ready for Siege of Orgrimmar. Because the addition of heroic scenarios are being added, this would be a way that Blizzard could potentially do something with those or with the heroic dungeons to be able to get people gear quicker, like they've done in Cataclysm with Twilight Dungeons, where you can get a currency by doing this sort of content and then buy items from a vendor. So this phase, which would be Phase 4, would actually be the perfect phase to use as that catch-up phase between working on Throne of Thunder and going into Siege of Orgrimmar. And you could even do the same with Phase 2, which was Landfall. So you could use that as a catch-up phase to get ready for Throne of Thunder. And then finally, Phase 5 would be Siege of Orgrimmar itself. Now, you don't just get Siege of Orgrimmar, you're going to get Timeless Isle as well, which is actually a fantastic daily zone. It's got achievements, you can get catch-up gear. You can actually have quite a lot of fun on Timeless Isle. There's even world bosses to do here. And one of the world bosses, you have to, at the moment, I mean, it could change in Classic, but I kind of hope it don't, you have to have completed the legendary questline to be able to even access him, which is pretty cool. But overall, the final phase is amazing. Siege of Orgrimmar is an absolutely amazing raid, and how they expanded on systems in the last phase is really good. And as I say, Timeless Isle and Isle of Thunder, to be fair, in Phase 3, both of those zones they're going to be popping off. Now, the purpose of this video is not to go too much into detail on what all of this means, and more focus on Phase 1. So looking at this, we can kind of hazard a guess that Mists of Pandaria is going to be broken down into 5 phases. The most important phase, in my opinion, is Phase 1. Nothing else needs to change, other than if they want to throw in catch-up mechanics like they have throughout Classic so far. But Phase 1, ordinarily, in any Classic expansion, we have all content available at launch. Think back to Karazhan, Brawl, Magferrodon, all of those were available at launch, and rightly so, because it was all the same item level, all the same tier. Wrath of the Lich King, you had Nax, Malagos, Sartharion, all available at launch. Cataclysm, you had all 3 raids, Blackwing Descent, Bastion of Twilight, and Throne of the Four Winds, all available at launch. Well, the big difference with Mr. Pandaria is Moghasham Vaults has a lower item level than Heart of Fear, and Heart of Fear has a lower item level than Terrace of Endless Springs, but all of them drop the same tier. It's all tier 14. Now, Moghasham Vaults doesn't drop any tier whatsoever. Actually, with only Moghasham Vaults available, the only way you're going to be able to get hold of tier gear is from doing Shah of Anger over in Kunlai Summit, which is basically your world boss each week. So think Vault of Archivon, think Baradin Hold. But there is actually so much to do when MoP launches that only having 6 bosses in Moghasham Vaults is absolutely fine, because they are quite a step up in difficulty on both 10 and 25 heroic. I wouldn't say a step up in difficulty particularly from Dragon Soul, more a step up in difficulty when you think of an opening tier of raiding. Now, we know we're going to get normal and heroic open at the same time, so there's no point sort of fixating on the past and the fact that you had a weaker normal before you've done heroic, because we know we're going to get heroic straight away like we always have, or I would assume we will. But Moghasham Vaults originally opened the start of October, and you basically had the whole of October to do Moghasham Vaults before Heart of Fear opened at the very end of October. So I'm talking all the way back actually in original Mr. Pandaria now. So it was about a month of just Moghasham Vaults. And then Heart of Fear and Terrace of Endless Springs became available, but you had to have completed Heart of Fear to be able to go and do Terrace of Endless Springs, which I kind of would do that exactly the same way, in my opinion. Yeah, sure, open the other 2 raids at the same time, but you need the achievement from Heart of Fear to be able to go and do Terrace. Because again, there's elite gear that you can get, which you've not seen before, that you can get in Terrace, which is like the highest item level gear that you're going to be able to get in tier 14. Now, I'm not normally one for wanting things slowed down. You know me, I want all the raids open so I can just get in and start chipping away, working through them, get them done as soon as possible. But I actually think with the sheer amount of content that comes out at launch and the fact that Moghasham Vaults is a decent entry level to Mr. Pandaria raiding, that having those 6 bosses to work on for about a month, so yeah, a good 4 weeks before Heart of Fear and Terrace comes out, would be a good thing. Because what that means then is the second phase of content, which is the PvP patch or the continuation of the legendary quest, however you want to look at it, isn't going to have to wait too long. So that can almost be running alongside Heart of Fear and Terrace. You know, let's say you had Terrace and Heart of Fear out for about 8 weeks, so you've got all 3 raids to go at now. Around 3 months in, you could already have the PvP event starting, which people can go and do at their own leisure. Phase 5 also ushered in connected realms. So where, let's say you're running around on a low level in Westfall, you're going to see people in Westfall from other realms as well. Now, I think Blizzard could actually help themselves out here and just do server consolidations closer to the time. I don't actually think that's needed in Classic. Back in the day, there was loads of realms to connect. Nowadays, there's only 3 or 4 really, really heavily populated realms, and then a few medium ones, you know, and then really dead ones that might as well just be deleted. So I think just having cross-realm Dungeon Finder and potentially Raid Finder if they bring Raid Finder in, which, again, I think they absolutely should for MoP, I think that's probably enough, and we don't need to go as far as the whole world being cross-realm as long as they do server consolidations. If they don't, to make the old world feel more alive, which was the goal of it back in the day, the reason was to fill up the old zones again. In that case, I actually think it would be a good idea, but yeah, I'd rather they just merge the servers. I'll tell you something really interesting as well. Now, we've never had access to Recruit a Friend, and I'm guessing it's more from a system problem with Blizzard, you know, because they've got Recruit a Friend in like retail, so probably doing it separately in Classic might be difficult. But back in the day, there was mounts that we can't get now, even pets that we can't get now. But something you might not know about Recruit a Friend if you've never used it is it also gave triple XP. And monks didn't become available until the official launch, but could benefit from triple XP and still get Realm First achievements. Just thought I'd throw that in. I'm not saying we absolutely need Recruit a Friend, but it is actually one of those things that I'd love to see, because I would pay for 2 accounts to actually get triple XP and just level on my own because I've got no friends to recruit. Hello, darkness, my old friend. But obviously we're expecting Monk and Pandaren in the pre-patch, and I really hope they do give us it in the pre-patch so we can actually get our monks ready before launch. And they've done it with everything else. They've done it with the 2 new races back in TBC. They've done it with Death Knights in Wrath. They've done it with Worgans and Goblins as well in Kata. So I don't see that trend changing. But the main thing I want to see from Blizzard outside of server consolidations is get Phase 1 right. Launching all the content at the same time and having all 3 raids available, I don't think that will lead to a very good experience, and it'll even make guilds that are maybe a little bit slower at progressing feel really far behind. At least if you've only got 6 bosses to begin with and some guilds are only killing a couple, other guilds are killing all 6, it don't feel like there's that massive gap between some guilds running around having cleared all 3 raids and then other guilds still working on like Feng, which is the second boss in Mogusham Vaults. I know it's not about catering to absolutely everybody, but it makes for a much better experience slowing down that first phase just a little bit, especially because you're going to have alts that you're going to want to level. Most people are going to want to at least try out leveling monks, and if you've got all that raiding to do, all the reputations to do, challenge modes, so much thrown at you all at the same time, it could feel a little bit overwhelming. So Blizzard, let's stick to the original plan because the original plan actually worked, and let's get Phase 1 launching over the course of, let's say, 4 to 6 weeks. So that's it. That's the 5 phases and why I think Blizzard should definitely make sure they get Phase 1 right. I'll be breaking down all the phases in future videos, so to make sure you don't miss those, like and subscribe. Well, just subscribe, but while you're down there, you might as well click like as well. And leave me a comment as well. Helps with the old YouTube algorithm. But anyway, I'll see you on the next one.